each other. And so it's about really knowing your own superpower and using your own superpowers to support the tribe, to raise your voice, and to create a impactful change in the things that you're working on. So we're going to unpack each of these concepts a little bit more over the next couple of workshops. I won't go into this activity too much, but typically what we would always say is that everybody can speak to these three things. This is a human experience to, have a tribe around you, to have your voice, and to know your superpowers. So today's going to be more focused on your superpower, because I guess the message that I would like to, start and finish our women's leadership course with is that we can all be the designers of our own story, and we can be the designers of each other's story as a tribe. Okay. So Pauline, I might hand over to you now, if I could.
Thank you, Anna. We are going to head into our breakout session where you will have the opportunity to discuss what gender equity means to you, just for 8 to 10 minutes. And we will just pretty much listen to what your views are on this gender equity. So we'll do that. And from your perspective, how important empowering women is. So we'd like to hear your views on these two important points. So that's what we will do. So we'll get into our breakout session.
Thanks, Pauline. What you'll see is the join breakout pop up on your screen. Just accept it so it takes you into the room. Most people are back. Okay. So I kind of got to hear a couple of different thoughts about this as we popped through, as I popped through the rooms. But were there any points that people would like to share back around, how they see gender equity, or, what does that look or feel like for you as Papua New Guinean women?
From me, I feel as if, even though we talk about gender equity, equality, still men, because it goes back to the culture. Even though as a woman leader, it will really need to change the mindset to know that a woman can also lead. Others will understand, most will not. With the good ideas that we give, only few who are educated can accept that. But most, they will still throw arrows at you in the decision making that you make in the meetings and all that. And it's really a struggle that at least a woman to be a leader will have to take up, to be strong and more stronger. Though we will need male to come in, but male should also understand that a woman can lead. And that is it, a struggle in a way that many will not understand that, even though they know the meaning, the definition, but the way they act, the attitude, they will still not show that they trust a woman to lead. That's what I see that will be a struggle in Papua New Guinea. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. That's so insightful. And I appreciate you sharing that way. I think it's important for us to be surfacing some of these conversations and, understanding. And I know that the experience, I speak to Pauline and Medi, and, they've shared how, depending on whether you come from a matrilineal or a patrilineal line, sometimes that really changes your lived experience and the way that you're perceived as a woman in leadership as well. So really valuable points. Did anybody else have anything to add at this point? Any sharing? We can come back because what we might do is move on. You'll see on the screen, we've just highlighted those key terms. You know, often we hear equality, equity, partnership, and sometimes it's really challenging to think about equality as a goal, because the reality is that we're also different. Maybe there's no chance of us ever being equal, but maybe equity is the goal, where we have, you know, the opportunity for things to be fair and impartial, and for equal opportunities to be provided regardless of your gender. It should be based on your skill set and the opportunities as a human. And speaking to Pauline earlier in the year, I remember having this dialogue with her around, you know, well, what types of conversations should we be really having with women? And, you know, as a group of women, should we be talking about equity and equality? And, you know, Pauline made the point that it's really about having strong partnerships and working together, and everybody, you know, bringing their voice and their strengths to create improvement. So I really loved that insight that she shared as well. So we're going to move on to the next slide. Again, I'm going to put you back in breakout rooms, and we'll do it a little bit shorter today. But from your perspective, how important is it to be empowering women? Okay, so again, I'm going to send you to breakout rooms. They might be different, okay? I might shuffle you around so that you end up with a different team this time. And I'm just going to make sure I have a mix of people. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to open the rooms, and we'll probably just go maybe 4 minutes on this one. But from your perspective, how important is it to be empowering women? Welcome back, everyone. So did anyone want to share back, like from their perspective, how important is empowering women? What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Anna. From my breakout session, I learned a lot from Meriba and Mary. They're from Matrilineal Society, while I'm from Patrilineal Society. But we agree with one point, and that is education is the key to empower women. And that is the main driving factor. We all realize that even we still have gender inequity back at home, but if we are educated, we are more respected. So we agree on that point, that education is one of the important tool in empowering women. And of course, women empowerment is important because women in our culture are given the responsibility to raise children. Wholly, they are given that responsibility. And if women are empowered, they will raise good sons and daughters for this country. So that is where we agree on. So thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. Did anyone have anything to add to that? I think that's really great insights. Josephine, hand up.
All right. We had Emmeline asked us a question, and we didn't have time to answer that, and we came back to the room. The question was, to what extent do we influence girls here at PASAM? At most times, we also encourage them to be academically competitive. We ask them to stand up and stand out if they have the ability or potentials to become leaders. At most times, we talk about being modest in their approaches and the dress codes. So this is some things that we try to influence the girls within our area here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalind. Thanks, Josephine. That's okay. Would anyone else like to share, or should we move on? Okay, we might keep moving. But thank you. And I love that we've got that breakout option for us to all be connecting this way. So I hope you enjoyed being able to meet up with each other across those breakout sessions. I'm going to hand over to Medi in just a second, and we're going to complete an online activity. But what I will need everybody to do is 2 specific functions, okay? So one is inserting a shape, and the second function is inserting a text box, okay? So what we do have on our activity is you will notice that on slides 22 to 26, which is where Medi's going to go through and do an activity with us, you do need to be able to interact. So the easiest way to do this, if you follow me, up on the top of your slide deck, because we're all in the same slide deck, which means that we can synchronously edit it at the same time. It means we can work together and see each other's ideas at the same time. To insert a text box, you'll see there's a small square with a T inside it. That is text box. So if you click on that, you'll see it gives me, my cursor turns into a plus, and I can drop and drag it, and then I can type in it. If I want to change the size of the font or the color, you can see I can drag and drop it anywhere I want, my text box. If I want to change the size of the font or the color, I can highlight it. And then I can, up here on my toolbar, you'll see the font size is at 14. I can make it as big or small as I want. So maybe I want to make it size 60, which is really big, probably too big. And then because I've got a blue background, the black doesn't really stand out very much. So if I want to change it to a contrasting color, again, I can highlight my text. And then you'll see the text color icon is just an A, and it has a color underneath it. At the minute, it's black. But if I click on it, I can choose whatever color I want. And then that's how I edit my text box. Okay, so as we're working today, you might find that your text is too big and taking up too much space. So you can just highlight, drop the size of your text, make your text box smaller, and move them around. The exact same principle exists for inserting a shape. So up on my toolbar here, I have an option to insert a shape. If I click on that one, you'll see I've got shapes, I've got arrows, I've got callouts, I've got equations, so lots of different options. I might decide that I want to use a heart, okay? And so it's automatically come up red. Your computer might do it color automatically too, but I decided I actually don't want it to be red. So up here on the toolbar, you'll see there's an option for fill color. And fill color, it looks like a little paint tin that's tipped on its side. If I click on that, the same principle. I can change it to whatever color I want. And if I want an outline around it, the border color is right next to the fill color. So I might change it to white. And if I want to make the border weight thicker, I can change how thick the border is as well. Okay, keep in mind that if I'm editing either my text or my shape, I need to click on it first for the options to come up on the toolbar. If I haven't clicked on it, you see I can't see the options. Okay, I only have the basics there. Okay, so what I might ask everybody to do to practice this to start with is if you can all come to slide 19 on the text on the slide deck, which is where I am right now, and practice inserting a shape or a text box and put your name in it. So I'm going to say Anna. So all we want is your name and one shape next to your name. Fantastic. I can see you guys editing. Okay. So if you're still doing that, that's 100% okay. Just get familiar with it. But I'm going to hand over to Medi now. Medi, if you could lead us through this next activity, and we'll try and keep it fairly quick.
Mute. Okay.
Oh, there we go. It's okay. We've all sat there speaking to ourselves at different times.
So I'm just speaking to myself.
Okay. I'll put myself on mute and hand over.
So our next activity is looking at the question, what do you want a more empowering culture? 4 things to look like when you are walking around with the people that you relate to. How do you, what do you think that empowering culture that we have discussed should look like to you as a woman leader, as a teacher in your school? What do you want a more empowering culture to feel like? When you're walking around, do you feel safe as a woman leader in your own community, in the town, in the school? The feeling that you get when you are with other people around you, do you feel safe? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel that, you know, you are in a space where you can do whatever you want because you are secured? So the feeling that come out in an empowering culture. And the third one is, what do you want a more empowering culture to sound like? The conversations that you hear around you, within the working environment that you have with your students, with your women colleagues, with your male colleagues. What do you like to hear in an empowering culture? That's for you to reflect on what you have around you, what you have within you, and the people that you relate to and around you. And the fourth one is, what do you want a more empowering culture to think like? What do you want people to perceive, to see you as an empowered woman? What does that think like? What is the mentality that you want coming out of the people that are around you, to think like in an empowering culture? So those are the 4 things that we will be looking at in the slides that follow. So as Anna has led us through in the first one, we're going to be filling in the text boxes and the shapes that you have gone through, and answering each of the 4 slides on each of those 4 areas. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? And what does it think like? So we're going to go through those 4 slides underneath.
Perfect. Thanks, Medi.
So I think the first one is, what does it look like?
That's perfect. And so if everyone comes down to slide 22, all we're going to do, as Medi said, is to just drop all of your thoughts about, well, what does that look like? What should it look like? What do we want that to look like? Okay, this is just a picture of a text box, so I'm going to get rid of those, and feel welcome to add your own in there. It's just going to be a collage of thoughts. Thanks, Medi.
All right, so we are having some very fantastic ideas and responses to that question. We will keep on moving to the next one. Now we will look at what does it sound like. What do you want a more empowering culture to sound like? So over to you. Tap it away again for this one. What do you want a more empowering culture to sound like? Okay, that's great. We have again some super responses again. We want a more empowering culture to be validating, to be encouraging, to be supportive, and one that affirms us in our place as women. For people to say that you're amazing, you're a powerful woman, you're a great woman. That's what we want to see in to hear around us, and that will empower us as women. So great, that's great. We'll move on to the second last one. What do you want a more empowering culture to feel like? Okay, so that's great that we have more responses there. So we all feel like an empowering culture should make us, give us the confidence, feel safe and free and peaceful, inspiring, purposeful and meaningful. We feel that we are unthreatened. We feel motivated to do what we need to do. We feel accepted. We feel that we can be heard. So, and just to be ourselves where we are. So thank you for that. We'll move on to the last one now. What do we want a more empowering culture to feel like? We have a lot of responses there, great responses again. So we all want a more empowering culture to make us think that anything is possible. Our mindsets should be open-minded, empowering for everyone or anyone to do anything that they want, because they are capable of achieving anything regardless of their status or their gender or the wealth that they have, that anything is possible. That's what we want a more empowering culture to think like. So these are all amazing responses to the four things that we want to see in an empowering culture. And yeah, we hope that this can influence the way we think about people around us and how they perceive us and how we perceive them, because at the end of the day, our reactions to other people matters as much as theirs matter to us. So thank you very much for all the responses that you have given for those 4 activities.
Great. Thanks, Medi. I do have a strengths-based activity that I was going to do, but I'm mindful of time. So what I would like to do is to move this activity to next week when we meet. However, what we might do quickly before I move on is reflecting on the activity that Medi has just taken us through. What we've done is we've created, I guess, a mind map of how we would vision empowering culture for us as women, okay? Like by identifying what it looks like, sounds like, feels like, thinks like. It means that we're starting to really shape in our vision the way that we would like to be working in an empowering culture, because we do want to feel empowered, okay? So the last part of this is to just throw in a couple of ideas around, well, why is it important for, you know, us as women, but also for the, you know, girls who are emerging as, you know, all girls are leaders, right? How, you know, why is this important for the girls in our communities as well? Why is it important for Papua New Guinea? Hey, fantastic. So everyone can read each other's there, which is really great, but just some really solid responses. Just, you know, mindset just comes right to the front there in a few people's responses, and, you know, empowering gender equity. That's really, really important. So I'm going to close that activity there. But thank you for, you know, your time using digital tools to work synchronously like that. It's been quite successful for most people. I can see you're able to edit and change things around. We're going to continue to build on your digital tool bank as we do each workshop. So keep in mind, we will keep stretching and growing that aspect of what we're doing. However, from here, I am going to save the strengths-based activity for the next time we meet, because that's a really important one for us to give some time to, and I don't want to do it a disservice by rushing through it now. However, I will close today by talking a little bit about bias, okay? And I think from my perspective, when I first started to really pull apart gender issues and I guess deeply understand how, you know, different women experience gender issues in the world, I started to become more conscious of these biases that we have as human beings. And certainly for myself, I started to really acknowledge that I had all of these unconscious biases. They were just assumptions that I made because of the way that I was brought up and my experience in the world. And they were things that I just didn't ever question for whatever reason. And as you get older, you start to become more aware of them. However, it took me doing some real deep reflection to think about and identify where those biases were in my worldview and in my approach to things. And so while of course we all have biases, I'm going to share a little bit just so we can start to reflect on, you know, perhaps where do your biases sit in this space, and where are the biases that sit around you in your community. Today we've already surfaced, you know, of course there's some cultural biases that exist in PNG around the roles of men and women, and, you know, that exists across the world as well, and that's certainly, you know, not a new bias. However, we all are impacted by these biases in different ways. So when I talk about unconscious bias or, you know, implicit biases, they're the underlying attitudes and stereotypes that they just unconsciously attribute to each other, a person, a group, and they affect how we engage or understand the world around us, or a person or group. So, you know, we know working with young boys at different times, they perceive girls as weaker because somebody's taught them that, and they don't ever think about why. It's just an unconscious bias that, you know, our society and our cultures teach boys at different times. The same as, you know, the girls and all of us growing up as women, we're told at different times through the media, through society, through culture, that we have less value than a man. And so until we learn differently, we just believe that that's the truth, right? And so part of what we're going to do next is just to get you to really think about, oh, well, what biases or assumptions do I make about myself that may be holding me back? And, you know, maybe in the next 2 weeks before we meet again, just be a little bit more aware of some of the biases that you might see around you. And sometimes they're generally assumptions we make about ourselves as well. So when we talk about unconscious bias, there's many, many biases, but these are the key ones that we'll highlight today. When we talk about an affinity bias, that's when we have a feeling or connection to those similar to us. Okay, so for example, you might have an affinity bias with one of your one talks. You're like, yep, they're from my village, they know my place, they know my people. I'm going to trust them just because I have an affinity with them. Okay, doesn't necessarily mean they're a good, bad, indifferent person, but we have a bias towards them. Okay, we have a perception bias sometimes, so that comes with the stereotyping or assumptions about different groups. And we know a very classic example is, you know, when September 11 happened, and then there was a massive global bias against Islamic or Muslim people. Okay, and so that was a perception bias that was created from the media, and everyone at that time started to be quite aware of, you know, Islamic people in our communities. As you know, before that, we didn't mind. The halo effect, and this is where we project positive qualities onto people without even knowing them. Sometimes we do this with celebrity or with, you know, somebody who we just think is amazing. And we don't actually really know if they're amazing or not, but we want to believe they are. We set them up on a higher pedestal and go, wow, you know, they're really great. And my perception of them, my bias is that they're really fantastic people. And the last one, which I'll mention, is a confirmation bias. Okay. And so we as humans, we tend to use this one the most, because what we do is we go and look for people who have the same opinions or pre-existing ideas to validate our own. Okay. I find I do this sometimes. I'll be reading some research and I'll be like, oh, this is amazing. And, you know, I think it's amazing because it supports my own ideas. Okay, so that's like a bias I'm now quite aware of. And so now I go and look at different research and people who have difference of opinion to me, because I want to stretch the way I think and broaden my mindset rather than just confirming what I already know and validating myself. Okay, so when we start to explore unconscious bias as women particularly, we need to think about the fact that the world was generally designed by men for men. Okay, and there's actually a book that I'm going to put a link in for you to have a look at later. However, the way that design has occurred around the world, designs for men, not necessarily women. Okay, and you'll start to see some of that in how cars are designed, how phones are designed, how sometimes it can be things like where the bathrooms are located in buildings. There's a whole heap of evidence of why men have designed things a certain way. And we certainly know an obvious one is how women's bathrooms have designed with the same amount of cubicles as men's bathrooms. But men actually only generally need a urinal most of the time, and women need twice as many bathrooms because the women tend to use them more often. Okay. Just one example. One of the biases also that emerges all the time is that it really takes a courageous woman to put her hand up. And, you know, we heard some of that today, is that it's actually quite difficult for us to put our hand up and go, yeah, I'm going to give that a go. Okay. Men generally don't have that approach. They generally feel confident that their ideas are going to be accepted and they put their hand up. Okay. With women, we don't have that same level of confidence at different times, which means that our ideas are also not being shared across the community as often because we feel a little bit more risk adverse in sharing our ideas. Okay, typically in professional circles as well, you will find that women, they wait until they're fully skilled and competent before they put their hand up. Okay, and the research actually perpetuates and it models this process where most men, their mindset and their attitude is, I can't do it yet, but I'll put my hand up and I'll have a go, and they learn on the job. Okay, women's mindset, we tend to wait until we know absolutely everything and we feel very confident and skilled, and then we put our hand up. In that time, there's a lot of men just having a go and, you know, succeeding in their careers and moving ahead. And sometimes they're not as quality as the women. However, it's because women tend to hold off until they're fully skilled. They feel very confident and then they go and put their hand up. Okay. So and you probably have seen this in the workplace over and over again. It happens all over the world. And the last thing that I will mention is that women sometimes, because of our own biases, when we've seen men rip down women, sometimes we do the same, okay? And I'm going to leave you with that, because that was really confronting for me to think about how that bias presents itself in your own lives. But I have had that experience where I see a man doing a job badly at different times, and I'll be like, oh yeah, let him go. If I see a woman doing a job badly, I used to be like, oh, well, why can't she do it better? Okay. And I had to really step back from myself and go, wow, that is a bias I have, because I've heard men speak about women that way. Okay. So I'm going to leave you with a flipped task around bias. Okay. So this will essentially be the online learning that you will do before we meet again. And I've left it fairly simple for this fortnight. What you will do is there are 3 different articles that unpack bias and gender issues. And what I'd like for you to do is read them. None of them are very long. I think they're all between 6 and 10 minutes reading. And then respond to this link. And there's only 3 questions to respond to. One is, what connected with you most? What extended your thinking most? And what challenged your thinking most? And just always, if you have any questions, throw them in there as well. What you'll find, as I did when I did this process, is it did surface my biases, and it surfaced the biases that I just automatically accepted in the world around me, and I didn't even think about them. And perhaps that might do that for you as well. However, I will send this flipped task through on our WhatsApp group. And of course, you can always ask questions on the WhatsApp group if you have any. Otherwise, our next workshop, I will cover that strengths-based activity, and we'll go a little bit more into some thinking around our tribe, which is our community, this network of women. Okay. So I am going to stop right there, and I'm going to open the floor for, if you guys have any final questions or any comments or any insights that emerged from today's workshop.
Thank you. First of all, my apology for turning up late for this session, but I'm thankful with what I've learned from the 30 minutes or so session. Thank you for highlighting some of the realities of the hardships, the struggles that we women leaders, go through. And yes, we were not conscious of what we were and the difficulties that were there for us to break through and be where we are today. But with the sessions that we will go through, I'm confident that we will be empowered to continue on further at where we are now in terms of the leadership roles that some of us play in our educational institutions. So thank you, and I'm hoping that more of these such sessions will enhance and empower us to continue to go further in taking up the leadership responsibilities in our roles as educationists in the system. Thank you very much.
Great, and thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you for attending as well. That's really powerful insights to finish our session with today. And please do feel that, as we go through this process together, we get to design this together. So if there's things that you want more of, please tell us. Just, of course, you can email, you can share it on the WhatsApp group, but if you are finding there's certain topics or challenges that you're experiencing that you would like us to be more focused on as part of this professional learning, please just flag them with us, because we can design as we go and make sure that we're bringing everyone together and supporting everyone, and that's what a women's network's about. Pauline or Medi, any final comments for today?
Thank you, Anna. I really appreciated all the contributions that the Lida Meris have contributed to our discussion today. And I really respect the views of our senior leaders in our society. It takes a lot of respect to be where they are. It's a journey for them. So being where I am today and listening to the point of views of these female leaders, I really appreciate. And I think this is the way to go, where we share from each other and we assist the young leaders, like we have Josephine here, those that are coming up like Bai, and we encouraging each other. That is the way to start, and I totally appreciate this team, and I'm looking forward for some great collaboration with Ol Lida Meri. Thank you, and thank you, Emmeline, and thank you, Mary, and the rest of the Lida Marys. And have a great afternoon, and see you.
Thank you, Pauline. Mary?
What can I say? Thank you so much again for another learning session this afternoon. For me, it's I've learned a lot again from the powerful group of women that we have, and it's empowering. It's encouraging to be able to learn in this space together. To identify and realize some of the challenges that we are faced with, but also at the same time to know that we have the potential and the capability to move forward as leaders through this network that we are creating, so that we continue to empower and strengthen, inspire, and motivate each one of us in the various positions that we hold in the schools that we are in, and also the offices that we are in, particularly for the provincial education offices. So yeah, there is, I look forward to the sessions again that we will be covering in future. And thank you so much for all the great participation and all the thoughts that you have given this afternoon, to all the thought-provoking questions that have been designed this afternoon. And thank you so much, and looking forward to another fruitful session in a fortnight's time. And thank you, Anna. Thank you, Emmeline. Thank you, Pauline, for co-facilitating for the first time. I think we did well as a team, everyone as a team. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Medi and Pauline as well, co-facilitating. That's awesome. And Em always. And thank you for everyone for taking the time to come and meet today. I will end the session there, but feel welcome to log off, or if you'd like to stay and ask any questions, you're welcome to. But otherwise, have a really safe week. And I look forward to catching up with everyone in the next fortnight. Thank you.